Hi, my name is Renaya Howard, and today my group will be presenting our presentation on autism and identity. So, who's a part of my team? Me, Renaya Howard, David Acosta, and DeAndre Hendrick. For our agenda and our observation of today, we will be elaborating on self awareness and body consciousness, cognitive and perceptual differences in social construction and social interactions. So, for my first slide, which is self awareness, I want to elaborate on how self awareness is the ability to recognize oneself as distinct from others. In autism, self awareness may develop differently due to differences in social cognition, communication, and sensory experiences. Their self awareness might not align with societal expectations, but is still valid and meaningful in its own right. So, with that being said, I would like to start off by talking about how autism also connects to age and the body of society in a sociological way. So, for my second slide, which is body conscious, society defines norms around behavior, communication, and identity, which shape how self awareness is understood. People who don't conform to these norms, like many autistic individuals, may face exclusion or misunderstandings. Autistic women and non binary individuals may face layered expectations about body image and social behavior. Research shows autistic girls often mask or imitate neurotypical behaviors to fit in this type of body that it creates intense body surveillance and self monitoring. So, for my third slide, which is stemming and embodiment. So, repetitive movements like hand flapping, rocking, or fidgeting are often natural expressions of autistic embodiment. Society may label these as inappropriate, causing individuals to suppress or feel ashamed about themselves. This policy of behavior impacts autistic people's relationship with their bodies. Autism is often framed medically, leading to bodies being studied, treated, or controlled rather than just understood as valid forms of existence. This could alienate autistic people from their own body experiences. So, on the right side of this presentation, I uploaded 2 pics showing stemming and embodiment. For my next slide, which is structural inequality, there's an image of a non binary professional with autism who's engaged with technology in the workspace. So, this portrays the challenges and contributions of autistic adults in professional settings, emphasizing the importance of a workplace inclusivity and accommodations. This also shows how structural inequality, another sociological concept, plays out. Many adults on the spectrum struggle to find employment, not because they can't work, but because the workplaces don't accommodate neurodiverse communication or sensory needs. So, for example, groups like Autistic Self Advocacy and Networks emphasize that autistic people should be at the center of conversations about autism. But, however, they have a contrasting image of other things in a work setting. So, with that being said, many adults on the spectrum struggle to find employment, not because they can't work, but because workplaces don't accommodate them and don't give them as many security needs. Thank you.
My name is DeAndre, and today I will be addressing how people with autism are frequently misunderstood by their cognitive thinking in terms of how they view the world and how the world perceives them. Through the use of sociological concepts that includes the social model of disability and disability as discourse, we will look at how public perceptions affect and at times hinders understanding. The generalization or stereotyping of the cognitive ability of humans with ASD is a significant concern. Although cognitive impairment is often thought of by society, the truth is far more complex. According to Neurolaunch, they state that cognitive abilities in autism exist in a broad spectrum, with them being challenged in certain domains and succeeding in others like memory, logical thinking, or recognizing patterns. In Cheyenne Perry's article, How Autism Affects Cognition, some people with ASD have extraordinary detail retention that normal individuals can forget when thinking about any prior events at the age of 4, which is very impressive. However, cognitive perception involves more than just talent. It also covers the distinct ways that people with autism perceives everything around them, especially under stress. Individuals with ASD constantly builds up levels of stress in social settings, according to the article Perceptions of Life as Stressful. This is influenced by the social norms, expectations, and situations that aren't designed for neurological diverse minds. It's really beyond biology. Perceptual reasoning and autism, on the other hand, illustrates how many autistic people employs creative, unusual methods to solve challenges. This leads us to an idea that definitions impact how society perceives people with autism. Camilla McMahon explores in her article how misunderstanding and stigma always occur when autism is defined as developmental disability. However, when autism is labeled as neurodiverse identity, the public begins to view it as a diversity in their mind instead of a weakness. Since whoever labeled the condition affects how they are perceived, this has a sociological linkage to labeling theory, the social construction of disability, and also power dynamics.
Hi everyone, I'm David. Next, let's take a look at the social construction and social interaction with individuals who have autism and how that affects their identity and character for the rest of their lives. There are many things we can do to reduce the stigma and to get individuals to understand why someone who has autism acts and behaves a certain way. Something that may disrupt the social interaction or construction with an individual who has autism is masking. Masking is a practice of suppressing autistic traits to fit in with societal norms. It is something that many people who are around autistic people a majority of their time may see on a regular basis. It is practiced to reduce stigma, bullying, or exclusion from certain events, which is a fear many families do have. Not only does it disrupt social interaction, but it disrupts the social construction of someone who has autism, as it puts up a barrier around them to not express themselves or try to change the way they are seen in a public setting. In the image next to us, it shows examples of how masking might look like in public. For example, forcing eye contact during a conversation, suppressing stimming behaviors, having a social script prepared before an interaction, or even just researching social rules before events. Furthermore, the autism spectrum disorder is caused by social and communicational difficulties. This ties into social interaction and construction because individuals who are autistic are taught to behave and act a certain way while being in public, through techniques such as therapy or educational. In the bigger picture, these techniques are used to care and support those who have autism and their families. However, it still puts up a barrier as it does not help the world understand the neurological differences they may have, which impacts the interaction someone may have with someone who is autistic, as they wouldn't want to be their friend or hold a conversation. Finally, an article I read titled The Social Construction of Disability, Definitions and 10 Examples by Chris Drew discussed the concept of social construction and how society shapes these norms that we must follow. The social construction of disability is the main focus of the article. It suggests that autism is shaped by social and cultural environments, for example, in the workplace, education, and media. It advocates for a more inclusive society where autism and disabilities are not seen as deficits, but as human diversity. Which would then lead me to discuss the neurodiversity movement. This movement advocates for the acceptance and inclusion of autism, epilepsy, dyslexia, and other neurological differences. The movement challenges the views of neurological disorders and conditions by trying to propose that these neurological disorders are naturally a part of human diversity, as it emphasizes that we need a more inclusive society if we want to reduce stigma, bring more awareness and understanding, and overall want to encourage the support for individuals with neurological differences. This ties into social interaction and construction, as the movement is actively trying to have people understand why individuals who have autism behave and act a certain way, and to keep that in mind, to not treat them as someone less than a human being. And the image that I chose show specific neurological differences that many people that you know may have. Thank you.